Here we go. I'll practice a little bit. See who we get in here. Nathan DeLay, welcome. Haven't seen you in here for a while. Art, Digger Evans. Three of you so far. Hopefully everything is still working pretty good. It's doing pretty good, I guess, Digger. It's been hot here in Maryland, in the eastern part of or eastern Maryland, or western. I'm actually western Maryland, but we're in the East Coast. That's what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, been anywhere between 80 and 90 or more degree days here. So, with hardly any rain, and when it does storm, the rain don't stay here. It just dries up. Everybody knows what that's like. It just hits the ground and disappears. Yeah, it is warm. Yeah, I would imagine because you're over the pond, right, Digger? I believe. I think you're over the other side of the pond, and it's probably turning cold over there because of the different climate and everything, different times and British Isles. Yep. Wow. I think we got five. 1, 2, 3. Well, it might be counting me too because I put a message in there. So technically we might have 4 of you. Nathan, Art, Digger. Well, who in the world's the fourth the fourth one? I would be the fifth, I guess. Oh, John 2618. Welcome, buddy. Not sure if you've been in here a lot, but welcome. Jerry, welcome. Martin, up to 8, watching. Just waiting a couple minutes, guys, see how many I can get in here. Since I'm kind of half in the mood to be doing this. especially the way it's hot. At least it's hot down here in the basement in this office because it's closed in with two walls, even though the heat can escape over top and up in the places in the ceiling and so forth, but there's no air coming in the windows at all. So I don't even know why I opened it. Other than that, you go out the door of the office and it's cooler down here in the main part of the rest of the basement, but you get upstairs and you get into the air conditioning. So that's actually even better, just to sit and watch TV or play some video games or something if I don't have a lot to do. Being below ground should help. Well, yeah, just not in this office. It's not insulated. It's just it's a double wall thing. But yeah, you get a lot of rainfall even in the summer. Wow. Yeah, the farmers around here need rain bad because the corn crop ain't even, I mean, it's usually, way up, and a lot of it is maybe half that size of what it normally gets. So Joe Rader, welcome. Carver, the Carver, welcome. And Chasco is in the house. We're up to 10 people. I know Vinny had a picture on Facebook. He was in the hospital due to his breathing problems. So I don't know if he's home yet or not. So everybody say or send thoughts and prayers to our cousin Vinny for a good recovery. It looks like, let's see. Yes, he was having trouble breathing again, so that's why he's in there again. So hopefully, he can get out of the hospital and do his live stream tomorrow night. If not, he might let me know, and you never know if I might jump in here or not. All depends where I might. If I might go somewhere tomorrow night, I don't know. Probably really not. Totally planning on going somewhere, but it might happen. Ray Boble, welcome, buddy. We have 11 of you in here, so I'll wait a couple more minutes, see if we get a couple more of you in here. But yeah, Ray knows all about the weather around here being hot and sticky, and because he basically gets the same weather. Well, he does get the same weather as me, and because we're not that far from one another, but so Ray has his layout down in his basement, which I guess I would imagine it's a little cooler in his basement than it is outside. I would hope, but usually the basement is cooler because it's down underground. It all depending where your basement actually is. This case, I can walk out the door of mine, or I can go into the garages, which is basically the same level as the basement. It's just under the house. So in ways, it's not really underground, but it's the bottom level of the house, you might say. A basement to me is actually down under the ground where you have the little tiny window, to look out of. So, and there's Uncle Wilmer. Wow, Uncle Ray and Uncle Wilmer all in the same chat. Yeah, yours is 100% underground. Yeah. You can tell that by your videos, buddy, because you look at the windows and you're looking at grass. Out here, I mean, the window is actually above the ground, so but the ground is right there. It's just up above the ground, so it ain't totally 100% underground. Part of it, the back room where our oil tanks and freezers and stuff is more underground than anything because it's right underneath the front porch. So and of course the cisterns is right next door, and we do have cisterns. Unfortunately, we do not have a well, and we're not hooked to the city of Boonesboro. So, and there's cousin Vinny. I hope you're feeling better, big bro. I don't want nothing to happen to you, buddy. I hate to see somebody going in the hospital for a health issue, but I know what you're going through. So we're up to 15 people. I'm going to go ahead and start what I got planned tonight. I'm not going to mention the live streams again. Just to have more time to go through this stuff. So I know I should, but to keep everybody. Oh, there's Nora. Welcome, Nora. But anyway, tonight's topic or subject, and that's my desk chair squeaking, guys. I've got to grease it or oil it or something. But we're going to talk about what I do for my track, and switches, and I know everybody's going to say that you already know some of this, but in case there's any newbies in here for some reason, or you might take this idea, and use it as your own, or something similar. I'm just going to use these two pieces of track because this is what I use. Ray Bogle knows all about using sectional track. So here's what I do. First of all, let me show you the wire. I use speaker wire, guys. Now I know that some of you is going to tell me that's not a good thing to use for electrical wire, but it works, and it's cheap. It's going to be cheaper than buying a big roll of wire somewhere that's that you gotta. I mean, I know a lot of you use Cat 5 cable and stuff for DCC. That's fine. I have nothing against it. It's just my dad, when he was alive, he used to use the heavier. It's like 16 gauge, I believe, is what he used on his Lionel stuff, which is a little bigger than this wire right here. I believe this is an 18. Or I'm wrong. He used the 18. Yeah, it gets smaller. Higher the number, the smaller. So he used the bigger stuff. I started using just the bigger stuff for my bus wires, my main bus wires. I run this the whole way around where I need it. I take and very carefully take a knife, go in between the gold, and in this case, this one is two gold wires, but one has I believe, if I'm looking at that right, it should have a white stripe, and you're not going to see that on camera probably because it's so small. But I use the bigger wire for bus wire. Take a hobby knife very carefully, take and slit down the middle of the two, spread it apart, and solder that on my rail joiners. And yes, I do put it on the rail joiners, sometimes on the track. It all depends where it is, but the rail joiners work just fine. And I make up my own rail joiner wires like Vinny and several other people do, so you don't have to spend $5 to $10 for little wire and too little. Now, in scale, that's, it might be a little different in price. I don't know, because it's littler. But when this is split open or separated, I bring one up, the other one up, and I put them at two different spots, suitcase connect them or solder them or whatever you want to do, whatever your preference is. I use suitcase connectors, but I always check to make sure that they are actually down in there. And actually I take a meter and actually test the metal parts and probe the wire and test the actual suitcase connector metal. And if I get a beep, then I'm good to go. If I don't get a beep, then I press it again just to see if I did not get it down good enough. And if I get a beep then I'm good to go anyway. So for the track, I know a lot of you take and put your wire on the side like that, and solder it. And I know some of you probably remove, well, Flex Track don't have it, but you can remove your tie and solder it on these particular sectional pieces. Or like I said, I take and put it on the axle rail joiners. And what I do when I do the rail joiners, I actually solder them while they're on the track. But I leave the two rail joiners that I put the wires on free. I do not solder them to the track whatsoever. The reason I do that is if I ever have a bad feeder wire or a bad rail joiner for some reason, then I can take those two pieces of track apart, and wherever rail joiners come off, they're still free, and you can just put your new set right in, or your new wires or whatever. Now, Ray knows what I'm talking about. Ray Bobo knows what I'm talking about when what I'm about to do. He knows when you buy sectional track pieces, you get that rail joiner on one end. It's usually up on the left hand side, and if you flip it, you get the other one on the top on the left hand side. Okay. I did this way for years, till I told myself one day, why don't you do it a different way? It might work a little better. Well, so I put them on both ends, and now what this is going to do, welcome Dave from BNSF in scale. But anyway, here's what I do. I take one wire, put the other wire on. Now, I know everybody's going to say something because I go straight across. Sometimes in places I do. Sometimes I will, do it different. I'll put one here and one down wherever, however far I go, but with the track. But here's what I do. Okay, being that I've always used sectional track versus flex track, because I probably got more in this than I'll ever have flex track. But I do own flex track for other trains. But here's where I solder. Okay, let me pull this back apart. I solder these rail joiners. This is without the feeder wires. I solder the rail joiners, and if I make a 3-foot piece, which would actually be equal your 36-inch or 3-foot, whichever way you want to measure it, flex track, I take 4 of these and solder them together, for the exception of the one end that has your feeder wires on it. I leave them, loose, and of course I'm not going to get them off of there now, but I take and I solder 4 pieces together like that, and on the end of the 4th one you have just rail ends. So, and on your opposite end you have your removable wire joiners. But that's how I make 4 pieces up. I solder 4 together, and I leave those wire joiners loose. That way, if I ever have to take something apart and rearrange it or whatever, the wires are already there with the joiners, and I can just reconnect it to something else. So, but I just wanted to throw that little tip out there. Part of my ideas. So this is kind of like a how Rodney does it live stream sort of thing. I guess you could say. But we'll lay that over there for now. And everybody knows the Atlas switches. You get those little cheap slide over controls, and you push it, and you can't push it real hard or for a very long time. It's got to be just basically almost a tap just to get the switch to switch. Well, over the years, I updated to the Acme switch controls. Now, what this does, it's basically something like using the Atlas relay, snap relay, to hook up your signals or over here, because this part, I'm backwards. This part would be to your actual switch coil motor and the relay, and then over here is your you can make this DC or AC. Your switch is gonna be AC, but yeah, don't hook your switches up to DC and expect them to work, because they won't. But anyway, this would be just like hooking a switch up to get this to move back and forth. And when this switches, it goes to A or B. C is your power wire, or common, whatever you want to prefer it as, and A and B is your curve and straight, or divergent or alternating straight routes or something like that. I always called it a curve or straight. So anyway, this is what this basically is doing. This, to hook up the Lionel, it's simple. You're basically just hooking this to your terminals for your lights, and the push buttons would go, or your push buttons would hook up just like your regular Lionel switch control lever would be. So, but I kind of like these because it's already got this feature to it. But I still use Atlas snap relays, only because you can hook your control wires to one side of this like that, and you can hook whatever on the other side, or you can use the other side to just daisy chain it out to your signals or whatever you might have, or you can actually use one of these as your second switch. I can run 2 switches off of these. I ran up to 3 on one time, and it actually didn't work real good. It didn't have enough power to switch 3 of them, but I can run 2. If, in other words, if you have a track that's coming in off to the left and coming and goes off out on your right hand switch, which would be, the opposite way of what you're seeing me. And it would be a end to end yard or siding. You can actually switch both switches so you can pull right out at the same time. So that's just the way I do it. Because I'm DC. Ray probably knows what I'm talking about because he's also DC. But this was always considered to me a good upgrade from those cheap slide switches that you had to push that would wear out eventually. These, I never had a problem with them as long as you got the wires soldered back there real good on them terminals. I mean, I had these things for I can't even I'm not even sure how many years, but every time I see them on eBay or somewhere, I grab a bunch of them up because you just never know when you can't get them anymore. A lot of people use them for Lionel and marks and stuff like that, which is fine. I use them for HO, and I've also used them for N scale years ago for my little N scale train. But switches, everybody recognizes just your Atlas switch and switch machine, and that this frog is plastic or isolated, however you want to put that in your own terms. I always call it plastic or insulated, but it's isolated or what everybody. Now, the only thing that I ever solder on the switch sometimes is this extra piece for your 18 radius curve. That's the only thing that I solder on there to make it, one big piece. Sometimes I don't because I'll have switches where this gets turned around as like an S, or there'll be a straight shooting off of it, all depending. And it ain't that hard to unsolder the joints. I've done it lots of times before. And the only other thing that I do for the rail joiners is I solder those to the switch, but I don't normally put feeder wires near the switch too often, or unless it's going off in the curved route. So, but this particular switch, if you can see right there, the middle screw is one of your AC terminal wires for your one side of your power. Then this one here is red, marked red with a Sharpie. The middle one is actually black, marked with a marker, and this one's green with a green Sharpie. I do that just for my personal reason, just so when I look down at the switch, I know what wire it is. And I usually do that with all my switches. Plus, it takes the glare off your silver switches if you have a light shining down and it might, have a little bit of a glare. This don't glare as much because it's colored. But anyway, here's something I'm sure everybody knows about the difference because it's actually switched around. But if you look here, the green wire is against your straight rail, your outside rail of your right-hand switch. Here, your left-hand switch, the green is at the outside rail as well. Now, if you turn, and you can turn this around so it's down here, when you turn that around, it's actually the opposite way, but if you hook it up the same way as it is here, it's the same thing, technically. But as you can see, I try to use thinner wire for my switches. This is actually a old piece of Lionel wire of my dad's, or off of something that I bought, and it's a 3-wire strand, and all I did was put a little piece of green electrical tape and black. Matter of fact, the middle one ain't even marked, but green and red electrical tape on the 2 outside wires, and the middle one, of course, is your opposite power wire, because one middle goes to one terminal of your transformer, and of course then the middle goes to your it's hard to explain with me to put it out there in the open, but anyway, okay, Vinny, take care, buddy. Why You Naked 4, welcome. Dwayne's Fork and Spoon, welcome. Steve 87th PSAP, welcome. I hope I didn't miss everybody else or anybody else. But anyway, to take care of your isolated frog or plastic frog or whatever you want to call it, I always took the 2 ties right here at your terminals. I take them and cut them out on the bottom, and then I put 2 bare wires in there and solder them fast. That connects your curve outside rail, your straight outside rail together, and the other one does your inside, inside straight and the inside curve. So it just jumps them. I've also seen different videos that they actually will make these wires to just to give it power direct. You could, if you really modify it, you could take and go from this rail here on the curve down to your straight rail, which is right here, and solder them. You just got to watch your so you don't melt your ties. You can do it that way on the other side of your frog. I've actually thought of doing that and then running, jumper wires to both and feeders off of the jumpers, but I never went that far. So, but anyway, we talked about your regular Atlas snap relay now. And Ray might, if Ray's still in here, he might know what I'm talking about with these. He's probably had a few in the past, maybe. But this is basically the same thing. Only difference is this one is actually a relay and a switch machine combo. It's the newer type that Atlas put out after they put these guys out. And what these are what they say under the table switch machines. So you mount them up under your layout, drill your hole, put your pin up. And I'm just demonstrating, but it was actually be down below your rails, just far enough in there that your switch would be going back and forth. You never have? Okay. Bunch of these got sent to me from our friend at Submarine 207, I believe is the channel. James Dunlap. He had a bunch of them, and the nice thing about this is if this pin would ever or if one of these plastic things would ever get broke, you can still use this as an Atlas snap relay. I mean, the terminals aren't connected to this. This is just your cheap pin that they put in there. So, but I know a lot of people's going to say, well, why are you still using the switch machine motors and everything? Why ain't you using tortoises or switching by hand? Well, I mean, these you would almost have to put some kind of spring. You would have to modify them basically to get the rails to snap over and stay there. Or, if you trust your train to push it over coming off the curve or whatever, then, you can do it that way and let the train do it. Or, you can just have these ugly things up on top of the platform and deal with it. And Ray knows what I'm talking about, having these. I'm sure he knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's basically what I had planned to talk about tonight. So, I mean, but this idea is a good idea when you're starting out with cheaper switches. Long as you can get those ties cut out without breaking a bunch of stuff up. Like I said, I always went from the terminals over and cut those two out. That way, I always cut two out because that gives you plenty of soldering room to put that wire in, the bare wire. And I always used like the ground wire from the Cat 5 cable. I think it has like the braided silver wire in it. I always pulled it out because all that is like ground wire. And I just take that long piece of wire and I use it just for this or, for other stuff. But I mean, this works good to a point, but, I'd really like to figure out how to get a jumper wire from this rail over to this rail, as well as this rail to this rail. That way it's on both sides of that isolated plastic frog. So yes, it helps. It helps as long as you have the locomotive that's going to be speeding up enough to get across that plastic right there. As long as you have a locomotive that has the power in the back and the power pickup in the front, I never had no problem with them. If it only has one truck powered, well, then you might want to have that truck being your cooling truck. So when it goes over, it'll shoot across enough that it'll pick up, on the other side of your plastic. But this idea definitely helps. I think even Vinny and a couple other end scalers do that to their track. And I don't know if my soldering job's as good as some, but it works. But there they are. I mean, anything to help it. And like I said a couple minutes ago earlier, you can take and put power wires on these and make it that much more, give it that little bit of push from your direct power going into it, which I've done before. It's just I don't like doing that to a lot of stuff like this because, like Ray had said in his blog 28, I believe, that I watched this morning or earlier today, he said that, oh geez, just went over my head. Lost my train of thought. Oh man. It just went what I was even talking about. Wow. Must be the heat. But anyway, he was talking about putting the switches in just as a switch and not doing a lot to the switch. That way, if the switch went bad, he was just going to take and push his rail joiners back on the next piece, and as well as here and there, and remove the switch, put the new one in, put the rail joiners back. Yeah. But I ain't as old as you, Wilmer, but I've got the problem and I don't know why. My mom will tell me something and it's just like I was never listening. I mean, I'll do it or go to do something and it's just right out the door. It was like it was never even in the doorway. But anyway, I mean, these here are basically somewhat the same. Like I said, the only difference is this one becomes a combination switch machine for the under the table stuff. So, and this is just the regular snap relay from Atlas. And I've always liked these. You got to watch how much voltage you hook up. I believe I can give my switches no more than 12 volts, and I can actually do that off of an old line L transformer of my dad's. That's what I powered my switches at the old layout with, and yeah, you can melt them. You can melt them if you're not careful. But I did give 12 volts to them, and I mean they work just just like a Lionel switch would on AC. So, but you cannot hook your switches up to DC. So keep that in mind. These are AC switches. You got to hook this up to your fixed AC accessories, and that's why but the transformer that I used was actually a bearable, um, you know, handle transformer without the fixed AC. It was a bearable, so I could set, right where I wanted it with a meter and tape it so it wouldn't get bumped, and use that particular transformer to power my switches. And it works fine. I mean, as far as I know, I've never melted one of these or the switch machine with that 12 volt. Any more than that, I might have went as far as 14 one time, and it was just 2 bolts too many. Yes, but I try not to overload a lot of stuff, because I know that these dudes will just catch on fire and melt right down. And I don't want to have to be replacing a bunch of them. But anyway, that's basically what I wanted to cover. Especially these guys. These some of you probably ain't familiar with, because nobody likes push buttons. They'll do one of these numbers with the double pole, double throw switch, which is like a on off on type situation, I think. Yeah, amps, volts. But yeah, it's different ideas. I just use my own, but the jumper wire deal right there, actually came from, I'm trying to think whose channel I watched, and I got that idea, and I always kind of thought of it, but I didn't think that, at the time I wasn't into a lot of soldering, and I wasn't that good at it. Well, with old wore out switches, I started practicing, and I would take so many ties off, and I would just keep practicing with a bunch of wires going across there, just to get my soldering skills, to a point where I wasn't melting a bunch of stuff and heating stuff up too much. And because, believe it or not, if you hold that soldering gun on them rails too long, they will tweak. I've had that problem years ago. My rail would be tweaked just like a phototypical rail would be from a lot of heat. So yeah, everybody hates wiring, Wilmer. It's not one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things besides running trains is laying the track, because with track you can lay it however you just let your mind and your ideas float, and you just lay the track exactly like your idea is floating in your head, and you can change it as many times as you want before you actually spike it or glue it, or I use screws in mine, but that's just me, because I got away from them little spikes I mean, I got tons of them spikes from when I was a kid. I used to buy a package of them thinking that, well, I might need these. And I ended up, with pounds of them. And I mean, I'm not going to get rid of them because, you can use them for other stuff. I mean, as long as you have something with, that involves foam, I mean, you can put little pieces on your houses or buildings on the corners and tack it down, and that building won't go nowhere. Or you can use screws and screw it down if you have something to screw it to. Or you can do a sparky idea. If you have foam, you can do one of these numbers for your houses. You can basically just glue this right in your corner pieces. And if you can do it, take all four corners, push down with that point on them skir sticks. It'll go right down in the foam, and it'll hold your building right there. The only problem with doing that is you gotta watch when you put it down how straight or crooked and different stuff's going to be. I probably wouldn't suggest that with scratch building stuff, or unless you really have a strong bond on the scratch builds to even put this in. That's just an idea of mine, but I mean, there's other ways you could put a building or something down too. You could even put magnet on the inside edge and, on your building foundation, and just magnetize the buildings down. It works. I mean, magnetized, or if you want to go into Velcro, but I prefer not to go into Velcro because it's a little harder to, do and get straight. But yes, you can use a wet cotton ball. Put on both sides of your rail, and that works just fine also. Well, you solder right in the middle, or there's even there's a little jig, I believe Micro Mart or somebody sells it. You can put that up right on your track rail. You turn your rail upside, or your track upside down, and put it in that jig and tighten it up just a little bit to clamp it, and you go right in between it, and it's used as a heat shrink or sink thing, so it don't heat up anything more than what you're soldering. So Benny took tomorrow night off. I'm filling in for him on my channel. Okay, that's good to know. I'm glad you told me that, John. John from School Kill River Valley, because I think he was going to I told him to let me know if he wanted me to fill in, but that's more than fine. You can have it, buddy, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be home anyway. Honestly, I might take a little ride up to Bedford County, so to Bedford Speedway, because I have not been to a racetrack yet this year. But anyway, guys, go ahead and promote your channels, and let's check out School Kill River Valley tomorrow night at 8. If I'm able, I will try to check him out. If not, everybody else, make sure you check Schuylkill River Valley out at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, Friday, which would be the 10th of July, 2020. And have fun with John. So we have 289 for Human Junction, which, by the way, welcome, buddy. Might have a live panel after SRVs fill in for Vinny. Not a problem, buddy. Not a problem. I wouldn't have had no problem doing 3 in a row. It's just it's a lot because I didn't want to go into weathering 2 nights in a row, and I certainly didn't want to have to do it 3 nights in a row. That's the reason I thought of something like this for tonight, just to pass some time away. Ray Boble still holding on that 300. 686 for Uncle Wilmer. 150 for Dwayne's Fork and Spoon Railroad. Dwayne's Fork and Spoon says he's got more vehicles today. That's a good deal. 611 for Digger. 460, 461. Yeah, they come and they go. Yeah, mine's been doing that. Mine was down to 420, and now all of a sudden I'm back up to 424. Then I was the 422, and now I'm 424 again. Go figure. But anyway, I thank everybody, all 79 subs for James Galton, I believe is how I'm not sure if I butchered your name or not. Sorry, buddy. But I got 426 now. Huh. Well, I must have gained 2 again. Wow. I don't know. I see it anywhere between 420 and 430, and then it's just like it's one of these deals, and then it sticks for like a month at one number. So thank you, Digger. I try, buddy. I try to make them interesting and not boring. And I'm sure some of it's boring, but we get through it. Nothing's boring about Wilmer or Sparky or Vinny's live streams. I know that because anybody besides me is very, very, well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. Like I said, I try my best. I don't have no big equipment or nothing, just a gaming computer and StreamYard that I switched over to instead of OBS, because I had a lot of trouble with OBS and I couldn't get the other one that Sparky uses to work. And then I was using Primus or Prism, I believe it was, for a while. And then I learned about StreamYards, that you could do panels and all that good stuff. Well, up to this day, I still can't do links. Go figure. I don't know what I'm doing, to not get the things to work, but I cannot I can't figure it out. So one of these days I'll have Ray or Wilmer or somebody up on my panel, and we can have more than just me chatting. But until then, guys, since it's over 8 o'clock now, thanks everybody for coming and showing up. I appreciate it both nights. Last night for fill in for Sparky, and tonight for my regular one. And make sure we check out Schuylkill River Valley tomorrow night in place of Vinny at 8 p.m. Eastern. And give him some love and support on his channel. And thoughts and prayers to Vinny to get well. And thank you again, John. Yes, two nights in a row. I don't know if I could do 3, honestly. I'm not sure if I ever did that. That I don't know. I could have probably did it. I mean, it wouldn't have been as long as I had something different from weathering or what I showed tonight. I think I could have did it, but yeah, that's more than fine. If he asked you, John, that's fine. I have no problem, and you'll do just fine. It's going to be just like being on your community roundhouse show, only you'll be alone and on camera. You won't have Brian to back you up. So, but I thank everybody for showing up. God bless you. Have a good night. And I don't know how that got up there. I hit a button. But anyway, have a good weekend. If I don't get to show up tomorrow night for some reason, have a good, safe weekend. Stay cool. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now, guys.